Okay. So just a reminder, everybody, all of these wind time review sessions I'm doing, I do record them so that later you can go back and watch these. If you look on Google Classroom at the very top, the review unit section of Google Classroom, there's a post in there that says like all review session videos. It brings you to a document and it lists all the different review sessions over the last like 3 years that I've recorded going through each unit and tells you the topics of the review session. That can be a really helpful tool just to listen to and spare time when you're like eating at the dinner table with your friends, hanging out with your boyfriend. That could be like a good activity, like, hey, let's just listen to this review session about transcendentalism. Okay, so that is available for you. All the review sessions during one time are saved on YouTube. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel, smash that like button, hit the like and the bell icon to get future notifications. Okay. Then you can join my Patreon for early access. Not really. Okay. Last time in class or review session, everybody, we talked about the reconstruction units. And today I figured we could talk about the industrialism of the late 1800s. And then on Thursday morning, my plan was to talk about progressivism. Remember, progressivism is one of those topics that's really key to know. To make sure you go over. They love asking questions, especially like writing essays about progressivism. Thursday morning will be done. Okay. So when we look at industrialism of the late 1800s, there's a few factors that go into why industrialism grows so much. First, we have government support. Okay, the government wants businesses to grow, and so we see this system called laissez-faire economics, which means there's few regulations or rules for businesses. Right? We don't have minimum wage. We don't have worker safety or anything like that. The government pretty much gives businesses a wide berth and letting them do whatever they want to do. Okay, so lots of government support. We also have lots of natural resources in the United States. Okay, whether it's oil or coal or timber. Okay, the United States resources is very diversified and businesses are going to take advantage of it. Okay? And they use these resources to create the products that are going to roll through the Industrial Revolution or industrialism. We also have new inventions and innovations. Does anyone remember any of the new inventions or innovations during this time period, late 1800s? Interchangeable parts. Cotton gin, steamboat. These are all like, so far, these are all like early 1800s. Anyone think of any late 1800s innovations? Bessemer process, which is the new way to make steel. Makes it efficiently and cheaply. It's okay, don't have a Tide pen. So new, cheaper way to make steel, which we're going to see is going to be a powerhouse in the industrial revolution, right? What other innovations or inventions helps businesses? Oh, that's a good one. Assembly line, right? Creating a more efficient way to produce products. This is division of labor. Each person has their own job, and that's going to help create unskilled labor positions. Why would businesses want there to be more unskilled labor positions? Okay, so they you can pay them or force them to work long hours, low pay. You don't have to train them as much, and they're easily replaceable. Yes. Right? If all your jobs are very easy replaceable, and somebody says, "Oh, I want to get paid more," or "Oh, I want safer working conditions," you can just say, "Well, you're fired," because there are hundreds of new people coming in who will take your jobs. Let's see, more innovations and inventions. We have the light bulb, right? So now you're able to work more efficiently at night. Factories now run 24/7. You have electric machines. Instead of burning like wood or coal to run your machine, instead of burning kerosene to run your machine, now you can hook up your machine to the electric grid, and you have this not sustainable. You have this dependable source of energy for your machine. We have the telephone, right? So we have different businesses or like different branches of a business being able to communicate with each other. Time zones are created during this time. So like a standardized time zone, because we have all these products going on train tracks. And if they're coming from different cities who have different times, that's not a good idea because they might be on the same track going the same way at the same time. And that's going to lead to problems. Right? So lots of new inventions and innovations. Okay, any questions about this so far? Okay. We also talked about in class how businesses tried to make the most profit as possible, that like new ways to do that. What's one example of how they tried to make more money? That's like maybe a new thing that they didn't do before. Horizontal integration. Horizontal integration means you're trying to take out who? Take out competitors. Horizontal, like you're on the same plane and the same selling product. Sometimes they'll use predatory pricing. This is what Amazon does. They go and they intentionally charge less for a product until it drives out your competition. And then you're the only one left, right? You've become a trust or a monopoly. And then what do you do to the price when you're the only one left? You jack up the price. So now they have to come to you and they have to pay a higher price. If there's horizontal integration, then there's also what? Vertical integration, which is what you do what? Control supply. So instead of paying another company to get supplies for you, you take over that operation so you get your own supplies. So you're not paying somebody else to get supplies for you. You can control transportation. So Instead of paying a railroad company to ship your products from one place to another, you buy your own train cars and you ship your own stuff. Okay? Vertical integration. We talked about some examples of people who did this. Who were some of those people? Rockefeller. What was his industry? Oil. Who was the other guy? I already heard it. Carnegie. And what was his industry? Steel. Now, these businessmen are making a whole bunch of money. Some would say too much money. And to defend themselves, they tried to argue that, no, it's okay that I'm making this much money. I work really hard. What was that idea called? What was it, Abby? Yeah, at least Carnegie would say that. There's another. I lost it. No, it's, well, they did use captains of industry. Oh, I remember now. Sorry. Social Darwinism. Social Darwinism. So remember, Darwin has the theory of survival of the fittest. And so what they're arguing is, since they're successful, they must be the strongest, fittest, smartest, hardest working, which implies anyone who's not super rich is not working hard and is not smart and whatever, right? So that's them trying to justify themselves. But that doesn't make other people feel good about themselves. So they're going to try to do the gospel of wealth, which is what? Yeah, you're giving back. Okay, we see Rockefeller give lots of money to like the University of Chicago. We see Carnegie give a lot of money to libraries. All of these are ways they try to like, hey, we're helping out, see? But if you ask them like, oh, could you just pay your workers a little bit more? They'll be like, no, not happening. Okay. Questions about any of this before we get to labor unions? Okay. So labor unions. Okay, these are workers who are trying to organize, and they try to collectively bargain. Okay, where you go to your boss and say, we want better pay, or we want better working conditions, or we want safer working conditions. And you go to your, hi.
Would anyone like to participate in the blood drive on May 10th? Or
we have mostly under 16. Thank you. Good luck. Okay, so you go to the boss and you ask, better pay, better working conditions. What if they say no? What can unions do? You can go on strike. Like what SpongeBob does in that one episode, right? So you can go on strike. And when workers go on strike, oftentimes the government would side with businesses. What's that? Not in the 1800s. The government's going to side with the businesses. Over and over again, we see like police and sometimes even soldiers are sent out to put down strikes. Like the Haymarket Square incident, where the police are sent out because there's people who are protesting, but then a group of anarchists show up and they throw bombs at the police officers, right? And so over and over again, we see the government siding with businesses, and businesses will try to fight back against labor unions by making people sign yellow dog contracts, which is a promise not to join a union. But other factories will be able to get a strong union presence and create what's called a closed shop, which means you have to join a union if you're going to work in that factory. Some business still uses today. I worked at a paper mill when I was in college, and you had to be in the union to work at that paper mill. It's a closed shop, okay? Whereas today, like here at the high school, there is a labor union of teachers. Some teachers are in the union, some are not. It is not a closed shop at the school. I don't think you'll be able to. I think that might be considered. Let's talk about just a couple labor unions. There was Knights of Labor. And this one was mostly men, skilled and unskilled, whereas the American Federation of Labor is skilled workers only. Okay. It might be hard to remember which one is which. I still forget which one is which. I have to like look it up to remember. So I think the key thing to know is that some labor unions are more exclusive than others. The AFL eventually becomes more powerful and more successful over time because it's focused on skilled laborers, right? A business, it finds it very difficult to lose skilled laborers. Whereas if it's mixed with unskilled, the business finds it easier to go and replace those. Just lost it. Last thing. Towards the end of the 1800s, we do see some government interaction with trying to limit the power of businesses, like the Sherman Antitrust Act. But it's not very successful, and instead it's usually used to go after labor unions instead. Eventually, it'd be replaced after the turn of the century by what law? Something Antitrust Act. That was a C. Clayton. Clara Clayton. Not really. It's from Back to the Future Part 3. That was a love interest. Her name was Claire. Clara Clayton. She had that accent. How many times can I say Clara Clayton? And there was the Interstate Commerce Act, that created the Interstate Commerce Commission. And their job was to try to reform businesses, and it's not very successful. Because they would make laws for businesses, but the business would say, oh, I'm actually headquartered in another state, so you can't tell me what to do. But now, because this is coming from the national government, they're saying, oh, we can tell you what to do now. And they'll tell them to do some things, but again, the government wants business to grow, so they're not going to be super, like, on their case. Okay. I think that's all I got for today. Questions, everybody? Either about industrialism or labor unions or Back to the Future Part 3. Any questions at all? Okay. That's all I got for today, everybody. So Thursday morning, I will be talking about progressivism as I'm trying to end the